He's like all these young folks, you know.
Let's be laid back.
We are
Josh.
rolling in 3, 2.
Let's start by stating your name for us.
I'm Gary Ray.
And how many years were you with Aldite?
I was with Aldite over 27 years and then with Shelby County over 13.
What all positions did you hold at Aldite?
Well, I started out working in highways from the time I could get a work permit. As a teenager, I worked 3 summers for the Shelby County Highway Department. And when I started college, started on the EA program with the State Highway Department, as it was known back then. I worked 3 summers on interstate construction, bridge construction, roadway construction. Came out of college as a graduate, worked for over 3 years on interstate construction, was project engineer on the Copper River Bridge when I left the state and went to work with the county as a county engineer trainee. That was kind of my dream job, to be county engineer, to follow in my dad's footsteps. That's why I fell in love with the profession, is watching my dad do what he did. So went over there and worked and was on my 10th year as county engineer in Shelby County. When I was offered the job as district engineer with the state in Shelby County, my entire career has been in my home county, the county I love. So I spent the last 24 and a half years of my career as a district engineer in Shelby County.
One thing, let me just stop here. Everything looks,
Very
sounds
good.
great. I'm rolling again.
Okay. What about a favorite quote?
Favorite quote? I like the one that Chuck Swindoll put in his little poster on attitude, and his is that life is 10% what happens to us and 90% how we respond to it. That quote did not originate with him, but I love the attitude poster, and I believe that is so true, that my life is more about how I respond to it than really what happens.
What about a favorite Bible verse?
Thank you for asking that. In the 20th chapter of Matthew, there's a story, I believe, regarding leadership that we can all learn from. And the setting is that the mom of 2 of his disciples, 2 of Jesus' disciples, came to Jesus with a request. And she wanted him to let, in his kingdom, one of them sit on his right and one of them on his left. And he explained to her that that was not for him to decide. And the rest of the disciples became indignant, is the word that's used in some translations. I guess they were a little ticked off, as we might be today, people wanting to be great in the kingdom, in any kingdom. And Jesus got them all together and he said, look, if any among you wants to be great, if any among you desires to be first, then he must be your servant. You see, leadership is about serving. And it's very important we develop that mindset. And I had that taught to me from a very early age. Gary, if you're going to do this job, then you've got to see it as serving people.
What about a favorite book on leadership?
Several years ago, I read a book titled Lead for God's Sake. It's a modern day parable about a basketball coach, a CEO, and a janitor. And it's about decisions we make that influence the lives of others. And a parable is a good way to teach. It was 2,000 years ago. and it is today. And I would encourage people who are interested in leadership to read that book, Lead for God's Sake. It's by Todd, and I believe he pronounces his name Gongwer, Gongwer.
All right, let's talk about your first topic today, which is having a positive influence.
Positive influence. You know, when I think about that, I have to think about our sphere of influence that we have in our lives. It involves our family, our community, our church, if you're involved in a church, and certainly as many hours as we spend at work, it's work. And I was thinking back on the people in whose sphere I was placed. And those people that had the greatest impact and the greatest influence upon my life. And I asked myself, is there a common thread in their lives that caused that great an impact on me? And there was, and it revolved around two things. Number one, these were the men in my life that, number one, spoke truth to me. They told me the truth even when I didn't want to hear it. They spoke encouragement to me to keep me on the right path. And when I veered, they spoke in a manner to me to correct what it was I was doing. And these are the men that made the greatest impact. So I've asked myself through the years, if that is what they meant to me, what can I do to influence, to have an impact on others' life? And leadership is all about knowing that influence is a power that we're given. It is a power, and as a leader, it's the power to impact people, to influence them in positive ways. We've got to recognize that what we speak, that what we do, people hear, people watch, they know who we are. And what we say and what we do has got to match if we're going to have the impact upon people as they experience us within that sphere that we have. There was a young engineer years ago that was assigned to work under my direction, and he was a project engineer, and he was doing such a great job. And I made it a point, particularly with young engineers, because I identified in a special way with these young men and young women that have come through where I've worked. So I would make it a point to, as I tried to with all people, to encourage them at times. You had to correct, but there was one time that he really did something good. And I remember sitting in my office and being made aware of that. I thought, I've got to do, this is a special attaboy. So I called him into my office and I said, man, I just want you to know that, man, I am just really proud of you for what you've done. It's the first time that I've used that phrase. I'm proud of you. Well, I'm standing there looking at him and he's speechless and tears are welling up in his eyes. And I'm thinking, oh Lord, what have I done? And he composed himself and he said, I'm sorry, Mr. Ray, but nobody's ever said that to me. And I thought, wow, the impact of the words that we use, but not only the words, they've got to be backed up by our actions. So to positive influence, I encourage you to know the power that you have to influence people and strive to use that power for good.
All right. let's move on to your second topic, strategic planning and vision.
Vision for a leader, to me, was of utmost importance because it tells us and identifies for us. In fact, we identify where it is we're going. And to me, a vision was always this mental picture that I got of, many times, the end result. This is where I want to go. And a lot of times, I guess we can have a vision without having passion. But to me, your vision, there's got to be passion behind wanting to get from point A to point B. Therefore, when I think about vision, I think about the values that I have. Because the values in my life, that's what's driven my vision. And values are the non-negotiables that form the foundation of who we are and why we do what we do. So, to have a vision and to set goals, I would have to write those goals down. Writing down goals that I had visions about was like planting a garden. It gave me something to water and watch grow. My memory is not the greatest in the world, so I had to write down. I had lists of lists. And in the value part of goals, I came to a point in my young career that I had to realize that I need to value above anything else in my work the people that I was attempting to lead. They were the greatest value because I couldn't accomplish anything. We couldn't accomplish anything as an organization if it were not for the people. So I had to work on that in focusing on valuing them. Therefore, my vision and my goals had to include vision and goals for them personally. I believe that's one of the greatest motivating factors as we lead people, is helping them to see the big picture, not only individually for them, to help them assess where they are and help them see where they need to go through encouragement, through correction, through caring about them. Then to bring them into the larger picture of the vision of ALDOT. I know in our mission statement, as long as it is, the first part of it is the part I remember. And it's to provide a safe and efficient and environmentally sound transportation system. Some people say it needs to be shortened. That's really the only part I remember. And what I always did from the time years ago I read that when it first came out, I thought I need to put in a very special word there. And that is serve. We serve people by providing these things. And we've got to stay focused on the service aspect of what we do. So I encourage anyone that hears this to consider why it is you do what you do. There are reasons behind what you do. The world doesn't revolve just around you. It revolves around the lives of all of those that we come in contact with, that we work with to achieve that mission. Mission, to me, is how you get from where you are to the vision of where you see you want to go. And the mission can be very difficult. It's hard at times. So I would tell people, don't lose heart. Keep your focus there. And always remember that the most valuable asset you have are the people that you work for. So keep your vision and seek to lead. And remember, in order to lead, you got to know where you're going.
What about, I know going through your years that you've probably ran across and had lots of stories that you'd love to share with these up and coming out employees. What's one that sticks out to you that would really speak to them?
It's what I would say would be more around the availability that I believe leaders need to offer to everyone that works under their direction. My approach to my work, as I was taught in watching my dad do what he did, was that I pretty much wanted to be the first one at work in the morning and the last one to leave in the evening. I wanted to make myself available, so I got to work normally a little after 6. As employees learn that, and they know that about you, I wanted to train myself to be concerned about not only the work aspect of the people I worked with, but the other areas of their life. I'm not a person that believes you can compartmentalize your life and say, well, I go to work and I leave my home life behind. I've never been able to do that. I don't think people can do that. So I had to develop a concern within my own heart that I wanted to help people be whole. And if they were willing to come to my office and share things with me, I want to be available. And one of the greatest times for employees to do that is before work. Because after work, everybody's beating a path to the vehicles, let's face it. They want to go home. And over the years, there have been so many times that men have showed up in my office at 6:15. Said, Mr. Ray, could I talk to you? It wasn't about work. It was about personal issues that they would come and ask for advice. So you really become, if you're not careful, and if you desire what I was desiring, you almost become a father figure or an older brother figure where people will come to you and start sharing things. And you're sitting there wondering, do I really want this? And the answer is yes. Because I knew that if they were going to perform at their highest level, that they need to know how to get everything right at the house, how to be financially sound, and even times to come to you with request of a sick mate or a sick child. And they would absolutely break my heart sometimes. But I believe that is what helps us to care. One thing that I believe I have failed at times is that in dealing with issues where people have substance abuse problems, in trying to point people in the right direction, and in using our employee assistance program, which is now, and for the last few years, has been contracted out. I always tried to point people in the right direction. But I sit here before you today and tell you that out of the number of people that I worked with and dealt with that had substance abuse problems, that none of them salvaged their job. That's how serious an issue that is. And I have even begged people to go on certain programs in order to save their job, in order to save their life. And I've had people tell me, no, Mr. Ray, I'm not going to do that. And some of those people aren't alive today. Because they chose to continue down that path. Sometimes you can't get the people to catch the vision for themselves. Sorry about that. But the names come to my heart right now. And I don't think I did enough. Leadership, I believe, is about caring that much. Try not to turn. I'm sorry if I...
No, you're doing fine. I'm on you.
Okay. And yeah, just as a parting message, what's something that you just like to send to the people going through this Aldite Leadership Academy?
It would be to know in here, to know up here, to have intellectual assent's one thing. But to know down here is what gives you passion. I developed a passion for working in the highway industry when I was a teenager. I lost a family member to an accident. My family did, very close, my grandmom, one of my grandmothers. And the hurt that I felt, the loss that I felt, is with me even to this day. So my passion, some might say, well, you have been motivated by death. And to an extent that would be true. Because the hurt that I've experienced, I want to do and have wanted to do what I could do on the highway system in the county that I love, where my grandmama lost her life in a very tragic accident of 2 state highways. I want to do what I can do so that the least amount of people will be affected the way I was and experience the loss. Now, can we ever know how many accidents we prevent and lives we save? We have before and after studies, but I'm telling you today, you make a difference. You prevent accidents. You save lives. And keep that in the forefront of your mind and in your heart. And know that is what you're doing. Whether you work in Montgomery at the central office, or in the region, or in the area, or down where I worked at the district. You make a difference. And I commend you and I say to you, thank you. And it is my prayer that you know this is why you're doing what you do. God bless you.